Well, welcome to another exciting episode of Light Vision Art Q&A. I am your humble host, Alfonso Ashworth. Of course, we broadcast live Saturday mornings from 10 to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we got a very exciting show for you today. My guest is someone I've known for a very long time. And he's already in the virtual dark room. Of course, most of you that have been a part of the show, you know, when you see this dark room in use image, that most likely we have someone that's getting ready to come on the show. And this photographer I've known for a very long time, since 1991 to be exact, when he come in the lab. If I'm not mistaken, he owned a Minolta film camera, SLR, and we hit it off right away. And this show is too long for me to talk in terms of everything that we've been through, but we've been through a lot. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the weird. And we're going to go over some of that today. Of course, my guest is going to be none other than photographer Duke Tribble. I call him the darkroom man. You'll see why in just a little while. But of course, before we get started, I'm going to do some quick housekeeping. Of course, you can find me on Saturday mornings, Light Vision Art Q&A from 10 to 11 a.m. Central. And of course, you can hear the re-air of this show at a later date. Just visit me on Spreecast, follow me on Spreecast, and also, by all means, make a donation to the show if you feel led to do so. During the weekdays, you can now hear me on Line Chasers Radio with Lonnie Poindexter. This show is broadcast live out of our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I am a guest host on his show. And of course, you can find me in the classroom at Light Vision Art, The Educated Eye. And we do a 16-week course. And we also do some private classes as well. But with the 16-week course, you get a workbook that comes along with the class. And of course, you get to see my ugly mug in the classroom as well. But like I said, this is Light Vision Art Q&A. And we're going to get started on the show right away because we got a lot of ground to cover. And if you have questions, by all means, post them in the timeline. And you will see at the bottom of under this video, you see a box where you can type your questions and suggestions, and then I'll put them on the screen. I'm going to go ahead and put Duke's website on the screen where you can visit him. Welcome, everyone. Nana Tarpley is in the room. Claudia is in the room. Lynn Beadle, Janet Stallings, Carlene Pulley, and we're expecting others to be in this room as well. If you have not been a part of the program before, it moves along pretty quickly. So make sure you get logged in. Jeff Coleman is in the classroom. Welcome, Jeff. And but we're going to get started. We got Duke. He's already queued up and waiting to come on. I met this guy, like I said, in 1991, brought his camera in, and the rest is history. He took over the darkroom, and he's done some things that you just will not believe. I mean, just quite amazing. But let's welcome to our show none other than the photographer extraordinaire, Mr. Duke Tribble. Welcome to Light Vision Art Q&A, Duke.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Yeah, and you sound great, and of course, I can see that we've already talked about some of the things we're going to discuss. But let's start out by telling the audience, how did you get involved with photography? What was your early experiences?
Well, I was an art guy in college, and I kind of dabbled with that, and I discovered photography, and for some reason, it was something about a still image that just stuck with me. You can capture that moment, you can never go back and get it again. And I like the human stories. I like catching people doing what they do, the passion and all that. And something about that talked to me, and I just got hooked from then on. Um, like I said, it stuck with me. I decided that's what I wanted to do.
And of course, you pursued that vigorously because I remember when you come into our lab, the first thing you pretty much told me that you wanted to be a photographer. And of course, I noticed you had your SLR, you had a Minolta. I can't remember the model number,
It was a
but
9,000.
I know it was a Minolta 9000. And of course, we started a relationship that has lasted all these many years. And of course, we've been through a lot together. But did you ever imagine that when you started going in the dark room that it would turn out this way when you started?
No, I was intrigued with it, and once I got in there and I started learning a little bit, it was like magic to me. It's just the fact you could think about the shots you wanted to get, and you could start learning what film to use to get the effect, what chemicals you could use to get the effect, how to alter the temperatures, and what papers. It just seemed magic to me, and all the years that I did it, I never get tired of watching that image come up and develop. Something about that just seemed like just so magical.
Yeah, and of course, your studio and your home was turned into a studio, dark room, and it's amazing. Of course, I can't tell all the stories, but I remember one time that you came up missing, and couldn't find you, and of course, you were in your dark room for I think it was like a day, and I came out to your home, and of course, we scared each other when you came out of the dark room. But tell people about what is it about the dark room that is so uh, addictive. That's the best word I can use because we relate to that word. But what makes it so addictive?
Well, for me, it was like I said earlier, when you go to do an image and you're thinking about the film and the developers and all that, you're trying to develop a mood, and it's the mood that you see and what you're trying to convey, and you can make that happen in the dark room. You can alter and burn and dodge and do your chemicals and all that stuff, and it was just something about the papers, the depth, especially with fiber base, the depth of the image. And once you printed it, got it framed, and you put it up, it was such a depth to it that just seemed. If it's a really strong image, you always want to go back and look at it. And I like to watch, people
Right.
look at an image, they'll stop and they'll think about it. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own emotions about different shots.
Right. And you definitely know how to trigger emotions. And we're going to look at some of your images. But before we do, of course, I am going to ring the bell to start the class. All right. And if you have questions, everybody that's done this before, post your questions in the viewer question suggestion box, and we will submit those questions and get you started. Natalie Tarpley, of course, you know her as Claudine. She says, "Hello, Duke. It's so great to see you. You are the best. Great photography, great darkroom work, Claudine. So she wants to wish you well. Of course, um, man, we could probably talk all day long, but of course we don't have that sort of time. Um, Now, the darkroom. You mastered the darkroom. I don't know anybody else that I could really say that about that I know personally, because I don't know what you when you started in our dark room in the lab, you sort of just blew it up into another type experience, even for me, because I thought I knew some things. And when I sort of got you started, you showed me some things I didn't know about. And then later, some of your work, which we're going to show in just a few minutes and let some of the pictures kind of scroll by, and you can tell us some of your work, your early work, and now that you in the digital, so you didn't leave photography behind, you sort of picked up on the digital as well. And I want you to kind of compare the two. And if the audience wants to sort of chime in, maybe try to guess what's film and what's not, let's start in on some of your images. I'm going to start out with something. We're going to put this up, and you can see people that the Duke Tribble website is at the bottom. So that way you can sort of see as well. Tell us about some of your work, Duke. Go at it.
Well, that image right there was shot on. It was a Mamiya 6x7. I printed it, and what I did is I hand colored some of it. Used to you could do it with paints or colored pencils for photography and all that kind of stuff. I just love my favorite thing was kids was just put them in a scene and just ignore them and let them do what they're going to do, and I could shoot and just catch them. Apparently, you can see they were kind of bored of fish. But I
Yeah.
think
So this is not Photoshop. Am I right?
no,
This is a print. Then you hand tinted it with
yes,
with paint.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to emphasize that. Go ahead.
Oh, those kids, that's another one. I just kind of let them go. That I put some paint down there, and just let them go at it. And they were all over. But you can never go back and recreate
Now,
that. And that's another hand color.
no, and I was yeah, that's I'm fascinated with the kid that's on the side door. How did you get that? Was he doing?
I have no idea. He was all over the place. Of course, you can see the gutter there. He'd already ripped that off. He was just climbing all over everything. Well, and I mean, that's the thing. You just got
You
to be ready for everything when you're on a photo shoot. Um, you just have to be aware of everything that's going on around you, even when you're not, when they're not posed. Like I said, I just like to let
Okay, we have a question already from
them.
one of
Okay.
our learned individuals, Claudia Richardson. She wants to know, how did you hand color? How did you do that?
Well, you print it on fiber-based paint. This particular print, sepia toned it once you let it dry, and then there were pencils that you could use. There was also paints, and you just basically you can paint right on the paper, and then you can use like art erasers, that kind of thing. Just do some smudging, use your fingers, and you get the effect that you want.
Wow. And a great question, Claudia, by the way. And of course, and like he said, you could do this from the dark room after you use a paper called fiber base, which is hard. Maybe we don't have time to go into all the papers, but it was a very popular paper for artists. Am I correct?
Which one?
The fiber base.
Oh, fiber based. It was a little bit more difficult to deal with. You had to press it, and it was, but it was. I mean, it's superior than any other paper, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we got another image coming up here. This one made me just laugh. I don't know why. And it's maybe not supposed to make me laugh, but it does. Explain that picture, dude.
I was in Memphis, and I was sitting off in an alley, and I was just sitting there, and these kids came up. I don't know what they were doing. They were just being kids, and I looked over, and I had my camera with me, and they did that, and I just shot it real quick. They were sweet kids.
Yeah. And like you said, capturing the moment.
Right.
capturing that shot in a split second and not having to wait for the action. You just sort of waiting for it to come to you. And that's what I see right here in this image.
And they got
And
out and
also
ran
in this
right after
next image here, they took off and ran. But what about this little girl and the paint
that. That
on
was
her
in
face?
2011 or 12. I was at the Olympics in London. And this little girl, they were painting her up, and she didn't really want to be there. I was sitting on the other side of her, and she was, you can't tell, but she was crying.
So you were able to go to the Olympics in London, so you traveled quite
Yeah,
extensively as well
it was a
in your
great trip.
work. Briefly, tell the audience, give them a short resume of some of the things you've done, Duke. Just briefly on some of the work you've done over the years.
I used to do a lot of kids, all the weddings and all that kind of stuff. But I've also shot for Warner Brothers. I've had a couple things in Southern Living. Used to do a lot of Cracker Barrel stuff and a lot of the corporate stuff around here. A lot of modeling stuff over the years. But my favorite is the journalistic type, where you can just go out and capture what's going on, whatever project you're. I remember I did when they were building Opryland Hotel, the new part. I was hired to go out and do all the construction pictures and all that. And I was up 300 feet up in the air, hanging off a steel beam, taking pictures of those construction workers.
Yeah. We got another question for you.
Okay.
Um, it says for snapshots like the two boys, what are your settings to capture them? And do you ask if you can take their pictures before you take it?
No, I don't ask. Not for candid shots, I don't. Now, if I'm walking the streets and I see somebody that's interested in looking and all that, absolutely I'll go up and ask them. But these candid shots, you can't. If you ask them permission, you've lost the moment. You've lost the moment. As far as settings go,
That's a great point.
as far as settings go, I don't know how people now. I don't think. I think people have lost with the digital and everything. I think people don't learn the craft of photography the way they used to. I always carry my light meter with me. I usually shoot an aperture priority or shutter priority or something. So it just depends on the lighting, what's in the background, what kind of depth of field I want to get. A lot of times I'll shoot wide open. I'll shoot, most of my lenses are 2.8. And I'll shoot them wide open because I want to isolate whatever I'm shooting. That's just my preference.
Right, right. And this is another good shot that's coming up that I really love this shot, dude. Tell them what you were doing. How did this shot come about?
I was sitting on the back row. I was actually doing a wedding, and I was sitting on the back row, and the bride's mother, and the groom's mother were fighting up front, and she didn't want any part of it. I looked over, and she was looking at that window, and I just snapped her. I love it.
Wow. Yeah, I love that shot. And that shows you, I'll call it three-dimensional thinking, is what I like to term when I tell photographers, be aware of your surroundings, not just what's in front of you, but all the way around. And like you said, you turned around and captured a wonderful shot at a wedding of all places.
Well, this kind of shot, you got to be careful where you meter because the light coming in the window is so bright, and the contrast is so I metered right on her eyebrows right there. That's kind of a mid.
Right, there you go. So you were using spot meter. We got a comment from Lynn
Okay.
Beadle, and Lynn says she loves this one. She said, "I love this shot." So there we go. We got somebody, and I love that shot as well. I think it's a wonderful expression on this child's face. It just leaves you to wondering, what is she thinking? And
I don't think she
of course,
wants
you
to be
don't
at
want to
that
be at that
wedding.
wedding. I know a lot of people that's like that, dude.
Me, please.
n- Now, this one, I mean, my goodness, you mastered black and white or grayscale, but it's hard to capture this. And of course, this is more in the line of a portrait, correct?
Yeah, it is, and the picture on the screen doesn't really do it justice because that's a fiber-based print. Um, there's a lot of depth in the skin tones, and I actually scanned that. And I don't think it caught the highlights quite the way it should. Yeah, that was
I'm
set
gonna
up.
zoom that up a little. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah, you can just see the texture and the depth in the shot, and it's hard to do that with digital, if I'm not mistaken. I
Well,
know
that's done
I
on
talk to people all the time.
that was a film print,
Yeah, that's a film print, and that's hard to recreate that in the digital world,
right?
especially with the types of papers and things that you could use. But I like that as well. But then, of course, I love this shot here where you capture the highlight. There's another thinker here, and I love the shot of the eyebrow. I mean, it just brings my attention right to that exposure and that shot as well. But go ahead and tell us something about this one.
She was a model, and we were doing a lot of pictures. And one of my rules when I do pictures doesn't matter what I'm doing, I always go in with the attitude that I want to try to get one shot that I can use for my portfolio. So usually, like with her, she was a beautiful girl. I'll ask them if I can do a few pictures just for myself, and I can't remember if somebody's saying no, but there's usually a magic window when the sun's going. It doesn't last very long at all, just
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes. And that was right at the end of the day. The sun was.
Wow. And is this the same person or is this a
No,
different
no.
person?
This girl, she was an MMA fighter. And
Oh, okay.
she was a fighter. And those are fighting gloves she's got on. She'd been working out.
Yeah, I'm going. Yeah, I'm going to zoom up so that they can see the sweat on her face and the detail. Now, what camera and lens were you using on this shot?
That was a 5D. I was using a 5D, and I believe that was 85 1.8. 85 1.8 is my
Hmm.
favorite lens. It's sharp as a
It's
tack.
mine as well, dude. Yeah. We got another response here, or we got a question or a response. This is another one from Claudia. I'm going to put it up here. And Claudia says, could you develop color film into black and white pictures in the darkroom?
Oh, absolutely. Um, wait. You can't develop color film with black and white chemicals. No, you can take a
No.
color negative and make a black and white print. Absolutely. It's a little bit
Right,
tricky. You got
right,
to really tweak all the contrast and to do that. You got to do a lot of tweaking when you take a color negative and make it into a black and
right. It's not as simple as it would be if it was Photoshop or something. Am I correct? It's a little
white. No,
more,
not at all.
you got to
Not
get
at
your
all.
filters right.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I've
there's
got
you're
a
gonna have a little
technique
bit
in
more
Photoshop that
experimentation.
I use. Yeah, yeah. And I remember this shot myself, and I think you printed a lot of this one when you first shot this. Who is this guy, and where were you, and what is this about?
This guy was he came from Texas. He was a Warner Brothers, a guy that Warner Brothers was signing. We were doing this album cover and promo shots, and we were out at a cattle auction place. And this is another one I just wanted to do, and I saw the cows behind him, and I looked up, and that one was moving, and I just snapped it for a split second. Right there. Probably that's
Yeah,
one of my favorites. And again, that
yeah,
one's
we
hand
laughed
colored.
about that.
That
Yeah,
one's hand
that's
colored.
hand color. Listen, yeah, there's another example of a hand color image. And of course, we're getting ready to go into another part of your artistry, and that's more capturing the moment in terms of what you were speaking of. That's one of your favorite things to do. Where were you, and how did you capture this one?
I
And it
was
looks
in
like you're
London.
using is that a lens, baby?
Yeah, I used the lens baby on that one. That was in London, and I looked over. That girl was beautiful, but she had like the 20s style, 20s, 30s styles outfit on. And I'm not sure if she was in character for something, but I just looked over. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And a lens baby. Tell people what a lens baby is. What is that?
A lens buddy, it's more of an attachment to your camera, but what it does is you can see in this picture, you'll have a focal point, let's say her eyes, and the way the lens is designed, the rest of it goes out of focus. You can either make the right side out of focus, you can make the left side, and it's kind of like a slinky, and you move the lens around like a slinky to get the effect that you're looking for. You have to do
Right.
everything manual on it. You can't. None of the cameras will do auto or anything like that, so everything has to be manual.
But it gives that great quality to the image that is hard to create otherwise. So I
I don't think
love that effect that you're using. Yeah, it's difficult. And this one right here is another one of my favorites that I picked. That hey, you're able to capture the emotion, and that's what I try to teach in my class is that light is emotion. So explain this image and tell the people about that one.
this lady. This was at a wedding, and the groom. They were from Texas, and the groom. She raised. She was their nanny for their whole life. She'd been really, really sick. She had cancer, and they didn't think she was going to be able to make it. And the groom really wanted her there because
Wow.
she raised her. And she made it up here. She was really sick, and she was sitting on the front. Snapped that real quick. I
It
love
just says a lot. It just says a lot about what you can capture with the box with the hole in it. And
it. She died.
Claudia
Died.
Richardson, Claudia Richardson's asking you another question. She says, "How far were you away from the black lady with the hat? What lens did you use?" Let me guess, an 85. Now go
No,
ahead.
I think
Go ahead, dude.
that was 28 to 72.8.
Okay. And of course, how far away were you when you snapped that?
I was probably 10 feet away. And the way that I shoot,
All right.
I shoot with my camera on my shoulder like this. So most of the time
I
when I
tell
get those
people
shots,
about that.
it's I know it's kind of weird, but most people don't even realize you're taking a picture. So I'll get a lot of shots just from being sneaky that way. It's also like a little tripod that I can use. But you just got to always
Yeah.
be aware of your surroundings and what's going on.
Now we're getting ready to go into the area that I think somebody wants to know. Can you show us how you do this as far as holding your camera on your shoulder? Because it is unique and it's something I have not been able to find anybody else that I would
Sure, let
tell
me
that
get my
shoot
camera.
this way. But could you show them?
Yeah, let me.
Okay, go ahead. As Duke is getting his camera, of course, I want to thank you guys for coming into the classroom today and asking questions. But we're going to continue on. We're going to go back to Duke Tribble, and he's going to show you how he holds his camera.
Well, I always take my strap and I'll wrap it like this,
Hmm.
and I put it right here. I put my arm on it, and I
Okay,
walk around like this, just normally, and people don't know if you're taking pictures or not. So when I see something, I can just snap, and then most of the time they
very
don't even know.
clever.
I'll drop it back down. But it's just I don't know why I even started doing that, but it really keeps your camera solid. Also, you can frame really easy, and it also
Yeah,
if it's low light and you don't need any camera shake, it's a really good. It's a good way to hold it. It's kind of strange to hold it that way, but that's the way it works for me.
yeah, and it does work for you because I've seen you do that for many years. And of course, I teach another method, but it all the same, you make it work. Now we're getting into some good stuff. Now we're easing into what you like to do, and tell the photographers out there, what is it about being out in the environment? What is it about that, dude? Tell them
Well,
about this shot.
this guy used to hang out at this. He was actually living at one of the mental health homes in Lebanon. He always hung out at this tobacco shop. And I've been trying to get him to let me take this picture for about 6 months, and finally, I noticed he had tobacco juice hanging out of his mouth. I said, if I run in here and buy you some chewing tobacco, would you let me take your picture? So he said yes, and I went. We couldn't talk. He never talked, but so anyway, I went in there and bought him some tobacco, and he stood there. That was about. I had about 2 seconds to get that shot, but I shot off about 6 shots real quick, and I never saw him after that.
Wow.
But I love.
And we're gonna.
Everybody's got their own story, and that's the thing. We don't ever know. We see people walking the streets, we see people on the side of the buildings and all that stuff, but there's a reason they're there, and everybody's got their own story. If you look at their face, if you look at their hands, it tells a story of kind of, that's their life. But you can't go back and recreate that shot. You just can't.
No. Lynn Beadle just said, Al doesn't correct you when he sees you out and say, hold that camera right. No, it's hard to correct somebody when they making it work. And of course, you make it work. I don't recommend it, but you make it work because it's your body style and the way you shoot. This shot here is very dear and precious to you, and I know because I know this shot and I know the person. But tell the people about this image and why you love it so well.
That was my grandmother. She had gone down to live with my mom because she got so sick, and they built an apartment for her, and she was standing there looking out the window. She had a great face and hands. We were really, really close. She was really, really dear to my heart. Still is.
Yeah,
Still is.
yeah, I know. I know she
Great
was.
man.
I know she is. And that's probably where you picked up a lot of your artistic abilities from. And of course, tell us about this one, Duke. We going on and on, but you got some great work. And go to Duke's website at duketribble.com. You can actually look at his work there. But what about this shot?
This guy lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, and he lived in this park. He used to be a bank executive guy. He didn't know he was an alcoholic. And he just left his wife, left his family, uh, gave up the corporate life, and been living in this park for about 20 something years. He would always sit over here at this. It was a chess table, is where he was sitting at. So I went over and we talked for a couple of hours. Really interesting guy.
And that's the amazing part. It tells the story. I mean, even without the words, the image tells a story. And you can just visualize where this person was and how he then become the person that he was now, of course, and that image says it all. And of course, here's another one I love, and of course, it's the grittiness behind that image, and that's how black and white you can just do so much with it. But where were you when you photographed this, dude?
I was doing some pictures for Vanderbilt, and they were building one of their, it's not a high rise, but it was pretty tall, but he was a steel worker. We were on the very top. What I love about this picture is on his arm, he's got "I love Vera." He was an interesting character.
Yeah, so there's that storytelling again. And you said on his arm, I love Vera. Great shot, dude. Just some
He's
great.
still married.
I'm moving forward because I want to make sure. Yeah, I hope he is too. Of course, this shot right here is a nice profile, and we both know this person. But of course, and this is somebody close to you as well.
That's my Uncle Robert. That was his granddaughter's. His health's been kind of ailing. He's having a tough time getting around. I like the detail in his face. I like the lines. He actually played football for Bear Bryant back when he was at Kentucky.
Wow. So there's a lot of history, and here's another one that clicks right along with what you love. And this guy, he's got a story as well, don't he?
I was in Washington D.C. and I had talked to him for a little bit, and I asked him if I could take his picture, and he said, "Yeah." Well, when I threw my camera up, in a real deep voice, he said, "Is that a 85 1.8?" And I said, "Yeah." This guy used to be a photographer up in the east, around the Boston area, and he had given up on everything and just had been homeless for about 10 years. You know a lot about photography. We talked for a while.
And this next one's one of my favorites because I know this person, and I remember when you asked to go up there to do this shot, it's someone in Claudine's family. And this is one of your favorite shots, isn't it, Duke?
Yeah, it is. They the story behind these were I don't remember. I like to take picture of people with no teeth. And these three ladies had said, "Well, honey, if you want to take some pictures of women with no teeth, come on up." So I went up, and all three of them popped their teeth out. She was a character.
Yeah, and of course, that shot that's film as well. Am I correct?
That's film, yeah.
Is it on film? Yeah. So people pay attention to look at the difference in the detail that you get on film that we're just not getting a lot of time with digital. But of course, I'm going to click through some of these because we're running out of time. I want to get to some of the really interesting stuff. This one here, of course, some people may not believe this, but that's not photoshopped. Tell them quickly what that is.
That was in my mother's backyard. It was. I saw him back there, and I stepped out the back door. And I mean, if I had been a millimeter, half a second before or after, I would have missed that shot because he was on this side of the
Yeah.
fence. She turned around and just jumped over.
And just jumped over and you snapped it and caught it. I'm going to jump to some of the things that you've done architectural. And of course, this red door is intriguing. Where were you? Did you get it?
There it is.
Okay. All right.
That was in
Where were you when you,
that was in Wales, and I was just walking the streets, and I like the composition of that.
and, and of course, this one here, you in overseas as well.
That was at Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace. And is that another hand painted or is that Photoshop paint?
No, that's Photoshop.
It's Photoshop paint. I could tell the difference is more vivid, but it loses some of that intrinsic quality that you saw in some of the earlier stuff. And of course, this next image here, tell the people where this image comes from. What is that image of?
That was the same cathedral or castle that Harry Potter was made. That was one of the side halls, and there was actually
Yeah.
nothing in that
So
tours thing. There was nothing. That's where they.
yeah, so when you went there, it's like a great architectural, by the way, of showing. I like to describe this of showing converging lines, and that shot just draws you in all the way through. But you said that's the Harry Potter cathedral. That's part of that story. And
Right.
of course, here's another great shot that you did. How high up are you, and where were you?
We were, I don't know, 400 or 500 feet up, and I looked down, and it was an interesting shot.
You just keep. You know what? What's amazing? You just happen to be where the shots are. You
Well,
just
I
happen
think
to
shots
be,
are
and
everywhere.
yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, I was gonna say that really the shots are there. We just sort of walk past them a
We need
lot
to
of
pay
times.
attention. We need to be paying attention to our
Yeah,
surroundings.
exactly, exactly. And of course, then we let's go to before we run out of time. Uh, I love this shot for a couple of reasons. One, the contrast between the two subjects and the fact that it's got that old Polaroid look, that old faded look that you would see on Polaroid sometime. But tell the people about how you shot this, and did you do any treatments to it?
Actually, that's Photoshop. That's
So
Photoshop.
that's a Photoshop. It's an image that you Photoshop, and you sort of made that Polaroid
It's got that
old
antique.
quality look.
And I was just
Yeah,
again
but
walking
of
down the
course
street,
you're a big.
and I looked over and just there
You're,
it was.
you're a huge animal lover, so I know that you love pets, and so you and Claudia would get along great because she does a lot of pet rescue.
Right.
So you guys need to hook up. But here's a shot too that you captured, and you was telling me about this shot, and it just makes you so sad for this young girl. But of course, where were you, and who is this person?
I was in Chicago and I was flying, but it was a stop, and I carry my camera everywhere I go, and I was outside and I looked over and this girl was a heroin addict, and she was a mess. And
Wow.
I just sat there and I shot that, and to this day I wonder what happened.
Yeah, and those are the sad. You never know the full story behind the tragedy that somebody's enduring. Of course, there's also the laughter and the joy, and this next one will demonstrate. I love the movement in this shot. Jeff Coleman has a question for you, Jeff. Duke.
Okay.
Jeff asks. He says, when shooting with your 85 1.8, do you see a need often where you need a 1.4?
I don't think with digital, no, I don't. I mean, the way the digital cameras are now and the way you can change the settings and stuff, I don't see the need. If I wanted something to be a little bit sharper with less depth of field, absolutely. But I love that 1.8. I've been using it for years. I'm on my third one, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I love that lens. But this shot here, these are what? Hare Krishners?
All right, Christians, there's some happy people.
No doubt about that at all. They were very happy, and you captured that emotion very well. Now, let me warn the viewers. The next images we're going to show, we said we are the what? We get into the weird. And this stuff right here is not something you see every day, especially when you talk about the behind story behind this. Tell us about this story because we're going to show it before and after. What
Um,
is this, and how did you get into this?
I got a call from a guy in Hollywood. They were working on a project, and the name of it is called Erasing Hate. The story behind this guy was a really hardcore skinhead. His girlfriend got pregnant, and they were fixing to go on. All the guys were going to go out where they used to go out and hurt people and all that. He said, I can't go because my girlfriend's pregnant. And they said, when we get back, either you're in or you're out. And they took off, and they ended up around the Nashville area. They'd gone to the, what is it, Southern Poverty for Equality or whatever it was, and
Yeah,
was asking for help. So what happened was a private donor came in, removed all his tattoos from his chest up, from his neck up, and they were trying to get him a new start in life. So the whole documentary took 2.5 years, and it was all about him having these tattoos removed, which was you should watch that. I mean, it was a brutal process, but 2.5 years.
of course, this was before, and then this next image is this person after. Wow, amazing.
It's phenomenal.
So we have what? This was the guy before with the
Right.
tattoos, with the hate, the skinheads, and this is what they gave him after. When someone says an image is worth 1,000 words, this clarifies it for me that all things are possible, of course, and you captured that just awesome. And of course, we're going to move on because I know we're going to have some more questions. But Claudine, Nana Lee Tarpia, Claudine told me to hurry up so we can see all your images.
Um,
All right. Okay, here we go. This is something more um, uh, fun and happy. What's this? Where were you?
I was in Tulum, Mexico, and I just walked the streets of the town and just walked the streets and kept my eyes open. Kids were so happy.
Yeah. And yeah, look at these. Look at the happiness on their faces. we associate them a lot of time. People like that, we associate it with sadness and that kind of thing. But a lot of people out here that go to these places, it is quite the difference. It's different than what we can imagine,
They're
of
not. Yeah.
course. And then we got some, yeah. Oh, tell them about this shot right here. That is unbelievable. It's what, fire blowing or eating fire? What's going on?
Yeah, there was a festival. I saw it in the paper or something. It was about, it was Halloween. It was, they were having a thing for body suspensions, and it was kind of like a carnival type thing. So I just grabbed my cameras and went over there. She was outside and she was breathing fire, and that was a tough shot right there.
Didn't you do a Wicca wedding once, like a witch
Wiccan wedding,
wedding?
right?
That they were, yeah, yeah. I've never heard of anyone other than you to get involved with photographing one, but you did it. It was great opportunity to capture something you don't see every day. And here's another example of capturing the moment. Here's another of the street scene shots that you talk about.
Yeah, I was in South Florida and I was on the beach, and these guys were nomads. They just traveled all over the country and just would go somewhere and stay for a couple of weeks and just kind of hang out. And they've been living on the beach.
So they just moved from place to place, and of course,
Yeah.
Uh, it's hard to see how people survive, but people do. I mean, it's one of those things you have to be in the moment to see. Of course, you were in the music as well, in the music industry, and of course, here's a shot of you capturing a band, the live shot there. What was this event, and were you part of it, or just happened to be there?
No, I just, it was a rockabilly. I believe that's what they call it. Rockabilly band or something like that. It was, they were having a
Right,
festival.
right, yeah. And now the next three shots are probably going to wrap up the extremes as to some of the work you've done over the years. And this next one, I know it's not Photoshop, I can tell you that. But tell everybody, how did you get into photographing people who hang themselves by hooks?
I don't care what it is. If that's something they have a passion about, you can't stage that kind of passion. So I don't judge them. I don't
No.
anything like that. If that's a good opportunity to photograph something with, and that's something they totally believed in.
Did you have to get a certain mindset for yourself as an artist to block out the fact that there are probably some pain involved for you to capture that?
No, not at all. I see everything in pictures, and something for me clicks when I've got my cameras. I'm just looking for emotional shots, and I just shoot. I don't get wrapped up in what they're doing. That's their deal. But that's half the fun for me is
Yeah,
to
and
document.
yeah, and I tell photographers that it's not about you, the photographer. It's about capturing the emotion and the moment. And if you're doing it for a living, that's part of what you do. And of course, it's the same thing with this next shot with the snakes. This may leave a lot of people uneasy. Of course, tell us about this background on this story of the snakes.
They were snake handlers up in East Tennessee, and I've been trying to get in with some snake handlers for years. He let me come up and spend a Sunday with him. Those are real snakes.
And when you say went up, is it part of a religion, a church, or,
Yeah, they believe in handling serpents. They also believe in drinking strychnine. They put fire under their arms or whatever. If they get bitten and they don't die, they're right with God. But the passion these people have for their faith was undeniable. You could not replace that for anything. And anything that you take pictures
right?
of like that, you got to admire that passion.
Right. And to prove the point, of course, we do have an image, and there's several other on Duke's website that I recommend you go and see, of someone handling a snake. And you was telling me that actually you came very close to one of those snakes, didn't you?
Yeah, I was leaning down to change the lens on my camera, and I knew they were going to come out at some point. When I raised up, he had pulled one out and was probably 2 feet from me. That got my attention quick.
Right. Very quick, because I mean, like you said, they're real, they're live, they have their fangs. I mean, it's all real. It's none of that's fake, that's for sure. You know, Duke, it's been a blast not only having you on the show, and of course, if anybody else wants to make any other comments while we're on, we got a few minutes left. But why don't you go ahead and type your web address in, because I'd like to put that back on one more time before we get out of here, so that people can, once they see the broadcast, they will see all the questions and comments, and they will also be able to visit your website. And of course, if you would like to see more of Duke's work, you can go to duketribble.com. And of course, uh, it, we did not have enough time to go into everything, because you and I have been a part of a lot of fascinating events over the years for photography. And you were sort of with this lab from the very beginning. Like I said, you came here in 1991. Well, we opened in 1986. So, of course, we've been here 5 years, but you've been a part of this lab and a part of this family at Custom Color for a very long time. And I really, you talk about passion. I'm going to tell you, not many photographers have the passion that you talk about today. They want the quick fix. They want the instant gratification. So one of the things I try to encourage people to do is stop looking at that darn screen so much. Shoot like you shoot in film. And because most of that stuff that you showed today is film. Am I correct, Duke?
Yeah, most of it is. I mean, I'm a big fan of whether it's digital or film, learning the craft of photography, going for the mood, and also shoot it the way you want to look. And don't just automatically assume, well, I'll just fix that in Photoshop or something. Because if you shoot it right, you don't have to tweak it that much.
Right. And that's it. If you get it right, I always say garbage in is garbage out. If it's not a great image, I don't care what you do to it in Photoshop. Um, Somebody wants to make a comment. Um, Lynn Beadle says he is very talented, definitely has an artistic eye. I love his emotional shots capturing close-ups of faces that draw you in, wondering what they are thinking. And that's it. All you want to do is make a person wonder, make them want to think, how did that photographer capture that moment? And if you can do that, then you tackled most of the problems when it comes to the artistic value of photography. Any last words, any final words that you want to share? And we didn't even get into darkroom that much, but we may do another show with you later about nothing but darkroom. But is any kind of words you want to, final words you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody needs to go out and find their own style. They need to shoot from the heart. Turn your flash off. Watch the shadows. Watch the emotion. Find what your style is, and don't try to conform to what you think people want to see or anything. Because if you're shooting from your heart and what you learn, then it can't be a wrong picture. I mean, once we're long and gone, these pictures will be. So that's the thing. What you see in my pictures may be different from what I see in my pictures.
Right. And that's it. It's all about the emotion and, of course, the lighting. And as you said, flash. Turn that flash off, because it's nothing but a necessary evil anyway. Duke, I want to thank you for coming on today and being a part of Light Vision Art Q&A. It's been a great show. And thank you for getting up on Saturday morning and being a part of it. Of course, the rebroadcast. Share this with others. Let other people know about the show. But thank you very much, sir.
Oh, it's been an honor. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. course, that was Duke Tribble with Duke Tribble Photography. And of course, you can find him at duketribble.com. And before we get away, if we can get Claudia on, I don't see her on screen yet. We're going to try to get in a tip of the day. If not, we may save the tip of the day for next time. I'm gonna get her on, see if we can get her on. She's on. She's out there. And I'll see if Claudia can come on. Hey, Claudia, how you doing today?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
You got a tip for us?
Can you hear me?
Hear you fine.
Great. Well, I want to say thank you, Duke. What an inspiration.
Yes, you're breaking up.
Yeah. Here.
Well, Claudia is breaking up on us today. We'll probably do the tip of the day next week. But you breaking up on us, Claudia. We'll do it next week, okay? All right. That was Claudia Richardson. We'll do her tip of the day because we had an extended show because we had Duke on longer because he had more images. But Claudia is going to do a tip, but she will do that next show, and I'll give her more time to actually think about some of the things she may want to say. But of course, Light Vision Art Q&A is a live show. And man, when you do something live, it's like anything's possible. Let me tell you, I mean, anything's possible when you're doing it live. But I want to thank you guys for coming into the classroom today. Lynn, Janet, Carlene, Jeff. Jeff asked some great questions and comments. Of course, Lynn Beadle has some great questions and made some comments. And of course, Claudia always has great questions and makes good comments on the show. There she is. I don't know if we can get you in. Your signal is better this time, Claudia. You've got a better signal. Go at it.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go at it. Let's go.
All right. My tip of the day was how to focus with a telephoto lens. And if you have your lens on the tripod, use my telephoto. On a tripod, you always turn off your image stabilization. Otherwise, you confuse your camera. And what you do is if you have something far away you want to zoom in, you see on the left my picture from my hummingbird feeder. To focus, you zoom in really close, biggest image, and you focus, right? And then what I do next, I turn off my autofocus, and then I zoom out and recompose my picture to where I have it how I want my shot. But the focus remains the same. You don't have to change your focus anymore. And you wonder where this comes in handy is when you do like bird photography. Like I do have this set up there for the hummingbird feeder. The focus was on a feeder. And if you have those little guys coming, you cannot autofocus on those. You have your photo focus set and you take the shot and you get them sharp. And that's
very good. And Claudia, you did that fantastic in that time frame. You are becoming a pro at doing this for sure. But thank you very much for coming on and giving us Claudia's tip of the day. And it's sponsored by Claudia and her animal rescue a program that she does. And of course, we love Claudia. Thank you for coming on, Claudia. That was Claudia Richardson, of course, and she comes on and she did the tip of the day. But as always, we're going to wind up our show today. And one thing I want to do is thank everyone again, not only Tarpley. She hurried me along to get all of Duke's pictures on. She was in the background telling me to hurry up. And of course, we are Light Vision Art Q&A. And for you students that are coming in today, we're going to be doing a special class at 1:30. So make sure you're here on time. We do the class from the classroom. And of course, man, Light Vision Art, can I say enough about it? And of course, the classroom, of course, is Light Vision Art, the educated eye. I want to thank you guys. Thank you for coming out. And of course, there'll be a gift.